Welcome to today's Mini Monday, Elevating Your Health with a Sip of Data-Driven Natural Solutions. And today we are going to be talking about anxiety, root causes, and natural cures. So for those of you who this is top of mind, first of all, I'm grateful to have you here with me today. And I invite you to be singularly focused on this. In other words, if possible, don't worry if you're driving in your car right now, ignore this. But if you're not, I invite you to pull up a pen and paper or keyboard and fingers and really just be focused on this work in service of your health and your life. And little disclaimer here, right? This presentation does not constitute medical advice. It is intended for informational purposes only. It is not a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Do not ignore professional medical advice or seeking treatment because of information contained in this presentation. And of course, if you think you may have a medical emergency, immediately call your doctor or dial 911. So the intention of our time today, first of all, the first intention is that you are present to what your health makes available for you and your life. Number two, you understand 6 commonly overlooked causes of anxiety. This is not an exhaustive list, of course, but these are commonly overlooked causes of anxiety. 3, you learn what lab tests would be useful for you. 4, you learn, are there supplements that might relieve or might worsen anxiety? Number 5, 3 foundational habits for relieving anxiety and cultivating peace. And at the end of this, we'll talk about being guided in living well empowered, AKA, we'll talk about working together if you are interested in learning more. We'll touch on that briefly at the end of our time together today. So for the next 30 seconds, I invite you to contemplate this question. So what does your health make available? And maybe more specifically, the question I'm inviting you to contemplate, why is alleviating anxiety and cultivating peace important to you? So I'm just going to be silent for a few moments here and give you a chance to formulate your answer to this. Why is alleviating anxiety and cultivating peace important to you? And now that you are connected to this, you know why alleviating anxiety and cultivating peace is important to you, what it makes available for you in your life, we will dive into this work. So to me, this is all about people bringing their gift fully to the world and inspiring others to do the same. So whether top of mind for you is anxiety, or maybe it's anxiety with a side of digestive distress or commitment to master your weight once and for all, whatever it is, to me, health is our foundation to fully authoring our lives and inspiring others to do the same. So that is what this work is all about. So a little quiz here, true or false, there is a difference between healthy anxiety and unhealthy anxiety, true or false. So feel free to pop your answer in the chat or just contemplate it by yourself. But, you know, this woman, I think we would all agree, is certainly experiencing unhealthy anxiety if we're going to create a distinction between the two, which I am going to invite you to create a distinction between the two, right? So I would say the definition of healthy anxiety is concern about objectively important matters, right? Things that really do matter in life, your health, your career, your relationships. So concern, an appropriate amount of concern about these important matters that prompts you to take productive action allowing for fulfilling on important commitments. So I would call that healthy anxiety. But then we certainly have the whole realm of unhealthy anxiety. And unhealthy anxiety is the recurring experience of anxiousness that interferes with your ability to experience happiness, evolve in your life endeavors, and connect fully with those you care about most. So, and we might even say instead of and, we might say and or, right? Maybe you are a super high performer at work and your relationships thrive and all those things, but you really struggle to fully experience happiness and really be present to the wonder of love in your life, given by unhealthy anxiety. So 6 commonly overlooked causes of anxiety. The first one we see here is nutrient deficiencies. And nutrients, that casts a wide net. There are a lot of things we would qualify as nutrients. Our B vitamins, our vitamin D, omega-3 fatty acids, magnesium, zinc. These are all examples of nutrients that may be playing a role in anxiety. In other words, when these nutrients are low, they are either going to hinder your ability to produce your neurotransmitters in a healthy way, or maybe they'll lead to elevated cortisol, or maybe they'll impact your ability to regulate your blood sugar, which you'll see on number 3 does play a role in anxiety. So certainly there is a relationship between a lot of these. But the number one commonly overlooked cause of anxiety is nutrient deficiencies. The second one we have on the list, and just so you know, these are not listed in order of frequency of occurrence or anything like that. So in other words, it's not that nutrient deficiencies occur most commonly and then histamine second. That is not how this list is. These are just 6 commonly overlooked causes of anxiety. So our second one we have here is histamine intolerance. And you're all probably familiar with the term histamines. You maybe at some point in your life have taken an antihistamine like Zyrtec or Claritin during allergy seasons. And that's because your body is reacting to the environment and producing histamines. Now, for a variety of reasons and for a variety of people, their body can get a little overly excited about producing histamines. In fact, the cells that are in charge of producing histamines, called mast cells, they can get a little trigger happy. So I think about this histamine intolerance a little bit like a bathtub overflowing. So at a certain point, the water that's in the bathtub starts to overflow. That's the histamine levels. And that can lead to a variety of symptoms, one of them being anxiety. Dizziness can be a symptom. Rashes can be a symptom. So a lot of different ways this histamine intolerance can show up, but certainly anxiety is one of them. Number 3, our common overlooked cause of anxiety is blood sugar dysregulation. So blood sugar going up, blood sugar going down, blood sugar going up, blood sugar going down. And that, I call it the blood sugar roller coaster, can definitely lead to increased anxiety for a lot of people. Our last 3 on this list, we have here dysbiosis, which is a really fancy word for saying a disruption of your microbiome. So as you may know, your microbiome lives in your colon. Your colon, another word for your colon is your large intestines. So I should say the majority of your microbiome, not all of it, but the majority of it lives in your colon. And for a variety of reasons, that microbiome can be disrupted. And the fancy word for disrupted microbiome is dysbiosis. That might be you don't have enough of the beneficial bacteria. That's one form of microbiome disruption. Another form is you have unwanted visitors, right? Maybe you have yeast present, or maybe you have unwanted bacteria present, or maybe you have a parasite present. These are all examples of a microbiome disruption that could lead to anxiety. And I'm sure a lot of you have heard of the brain-gut connection, right? So that brain-gut connection is very real. So our microbiome plays an important role in our production of neurotransmitters, and our neurotransmitters play an important role in determining whether we're experiencing peace or whether we're experiencing unhealthy anxiety. Number 5, insufficient sleep or poor quality sleep. This is definitely a big one for a lot of people. There is a fabulous sleep scientist named Matthew Walker, and he wrote a book called Why We Sleep. There are also a lot of great podcast interviews out there with him. He is a sleep scientist who works out of UC Berkeley. And, there are a lot of great gems he offers in his teachings, but one of the really interesting things about when we sleep that we're missing out of when we don't get enough sleep or sufficient quality sleep is something called glymphatic drainage. And glymphatic drainage is when our brain takes out the trash, when I should say our body takes out the trash in our brain. So below our neck, we have the lymphatic system, and our lymphatic system below the neck takes out the trash, takes out cellular debris or microbes that we want out of our body. Our lymphatic system is in charge of that. And above our neck in our brain, we have our glymphatic system that helps remove debris and supports the rejuvenation and repair process in our brain. And that happens in the by far biggest quantity while we're sleeping. So that's just a little bit more about how insufficient sleep can affect our level of anxiety or not. So that lack of repair is going to impact our ability to produce neurotransmitters that help us feel relaxed and at peace. I will also say insufficient sleep leads to decreased ability to monitor our blood sugar. So in other words, throughout the rest of our body, we struggle to keep our blood sugar levels stable when we have insufficient sleep. So another way that insufficient sleep can affect our ability to feel peace and not experience anxiety. And then we have this number 6 here, low progesterone. So progestation, right? It's a sex hormone, and it's produced in the largest quantities in women and very much involved in fertility, but it's also just involved in whether you plan on getting pregnant or not, whether you are pregnant or not. If progesterone is one of the hormones that plays an important role in our sense of peace or calm. So low progesterone is one of the commonly overlooked causes of anxiety. And I'm going to be saying a little bit more in a moment here about things that you may not be aware of that can cause low progesterone. So moving on from here, lab tests, right? Why are lab tests so important, firstly? So, firstly, they're important because a data-driven approach allows for identifying root causes of your anxiety. A data-driven approach allows for a targeted, customized approach. And, related to this is guessing is gambling, right? We're throwing darts, crossing our fingers, hoping we're giving your body what it needs and not giving your body what it doesn't need. So looking at what to test, the list is really, really long. And when I work with people, that is part of my job, is identifying the most likely places we're going to get answers to your health conundrums. In other words, what do I believe based on what I'm learning about you is at the source or is a possible culprit of your increased anxiety. So when it comes to nutrient deficiencies, we might be looking at your B12 or folate or zinc or magnesium. Though those letters RBC stand for red blood cells, which means that I want to look at the magnesium inside your red blood cells, not floating around in your blood or serum. So magnesium RBC is how I like to test magnesium. Your vitamin D, your omega-3 fatty acids. These are some of the really important nutrients that I'll be looking at when I work with someone who's dealing with anxiety. Related to these nutrient deficiencies is something called homocysteine. Now, homocysteine is also an inflammatory marker. but it tells us a lot about your unique needs for certain B vitamins. So B12 and folate among them, also B6, a few other things as well. When homocysteine is high, for someone who is experiencing increased anxiety, bringing it down to an optimal range of 6 to 8 is going to be one of our priorities. Now, of course, I'm going to be looking for someone to experience the benefits, but I'm going to be tracking the movement of that homocysteine over time. Number 2, for a histamine intolerance, one would be B12. So B12 helps your body process histamines. It helps drain the histamine tub. So that's one nutrient I'm going to be interested in when I suspect someone has a histamine tolerance. Candida antibodies, and I will look at that in the blood. And then also through a comprehensive microbiome assessment, we'll be able to see if excess candida, which by the way, candida is the real fancy word for yeast. So we're going to be able to see if there's excess yeast present in the microbiome assessment as well. And we'll also be able to see in that microbiome assessment, lovingly called the poop test, 3-day collection, yay. But we get so much great information there. We're able to see if there is a disruption in the bacteria that could be contributing to a histamine intolerance. Maybe you don't have there are certain bacteria that we'll see in a moment play an important role in our neurotransmitters, and research has shown that when they're on the lower end, people experience more anxiety than when they're in their optimal ranges. So we'll be able to understand that from your microbiome assessment. And of course, we'll be able to see if there are any unwanted visitors in your microbiome. With regards to blood sugar dysregulation, we're going to look at your fasting glucose and your fasting insulin, your omega-3 fatty acids. I might also be looking at your hemoglobin A1C, but really typically that fasting glucose and fasting insulin will be a great information on blood sugar dysregulation. So these are the 3 that I'm definitely going to test, and I might add in that hemoglobin A1C depending on what else we learn in that first conversation when I'm able to really determine what labs we want to order for you. So next up, we have dysbiosis, again, the fancy word for microbiome disruption. As we just said, we're going to be looking at a comprehensive microbiome assessment for that. For someone who has insufficient sleep or poor quality sleep, I'm going to be looking at vitamin B6. Vitamin B6 plays an important role in our ability to sustain production of melatonin, produce melatonin and sustain production. A nice little tip, liver enzymes, which those liver enzymes most commonly tested are AST and ALT. When they're on the lower end of normal, so low double digits like 10, 11, 12, or certainly single digits, but low double digits, maybe even 13, I'm going to start thinking about a B6 deficiency. Another little fun fact about B6 is commonly depleted for women who are taking birth control, oral contraceptive. B6 is often depleted from taking the pill. Also, with regards to insufficient sleep or poor quality sleep, we're going to look at your fasting glucose and fasting insulin, because when blood sugar is out of whack, it's definitely going to interfere with sleep quality. And a last option we have here for this one would be a salivary adrenal assessment with melatonin. So adrenals, they're glands that sit on top of our kidneys, and they produce our primary stress hormone, cortisol. And so being able to see how much cortisol you're producing and when helps us understand how that is playing a role in your anxiety levels. Same thing with melatonin. Definitely can help us understand what's at the source of sleep challenges. It's not always melatonin. So can definitely be a few different things. And then with regards to low progesterone, salivary adrenal assessment with salivary sex hormones. So again, that's that salivary adrenal assessment that we just talked about, looking at your cortisol production, the amount you're producing and when you're producing, along with salivary sex hormones. And the reason why I really like salivary sex hormones is that gives us a chance to see free, unbound, active sex hormones. That's not the case with blood draws. So the salivary sex hormones is definitely my preferred way of looking at sex hormones. Also, something that would give me a hint or make me start thinking about low progesterone would be really low cholesterol. So interestingly enough, there's a lot of people just think that cholesterol is, a bad thing if it gets too high, and any other number is fine. But cholesterol is an essential ingredient in the production of what are called our steroid hormones. And sex hormones are steroid hormones. So when we make our sex hormones, whether it's estrogens, one of our estrogens, or testosterone or progesterone, we actually need cholesterol. It's a little bit like you need eggs to make an omelet. You need cholesterol to make all those sex hormones. So when cholesterol is really low, and I have seen it really low on some people for a variety of reasons we'll touch on later, it definitely can be at the source of low progesterone, which is then causing increased anxiety. Miscellaneous. So many I could add here, but testing for celiac disease, right? And the celiac disease, more than anything, I would think about the celiac disease playing a really big role in nutrient deficiencies, right? If someone has lots of nutrient deficiencies that are just above and beyond, like really severe nutrient deficiencies, I'm going to want to see if there is a reason for it. Like, in other words, they're not absorbing their food well, their nutrients well, because they're dealing with the autoimmune effect of undiagnosed celiac disease. So that is certainly a possible cause of increased anxiety. Food sensitivities. So food sensitivities, which can show up either as antibody production against food proteins, or can show up as having a sensitivity to high histamine foods, which is a whole other bag of worms, so to speak. But food sensitivities definitely can be at the source of increased anxiety. Inflammation. So inflammation, when I measure inflammation, I measure it typically in these two ways. Sometimes I'll use others, but this HSCRP and homocysteine, for those of you who like to know the full words, HSCRP stands for high sensitivity C reactive protein, high sensitivity C reactive protein. And then we have detoxification. So what you see here are, out of the gate, are liver enzymes, AST, ALT, and these are both AST and ALT are commonly included in a very standard test. You almost certainly have it done at your annual exam, and that is called a CMP, Comprehensive Metabolic Panel, is going to include an AST and ALT. Another liver enzyme called GGT is not typically included in that test. And I'll usually only run that if someone comes to see me and they already have lab results that show elevated AST or ALT, or if we do their labs and we discover they have elevated AST and ALT, when we do labs, again, I'll order GGT. And then we have, in the way of detoxification, comprehensive microbiome assessment. In other words, looking at the microbiome, because there are toxins produced by unwanted bugs. And also there's a specific marker that we can look at in that microbiome assessment that helps us understand your exposure to toxins. Another way I assess detoxification is simply with the question, are you pooping daily? So a great little saying is, we're not just what we eat, we're what we don't excrete. So if we don't poop on a daily basis, we actually reabsorb toxins. So if that's present for someone, if someone's dealing with constipation and they're dealing with anxiety, we're really going to support their body to help them poop daily so that they can get rid of toxins. And there's a lot more I could say about that, but that's just to let you know that those detox pathways, when they're not working well, I know that wasn't in the 6 commonly overlooked reasons, but it is also an overlooked reasons. When we have more toxins in our body than ideal, it's going to interfere with healthy neurotransmitter production and function and can cause increased anxiety. And then the thyroid. So whether it's an overactive thyroid, also known as hyperthyroidism, or an underactive thyroid, known as hypothyroidism, those two can both be at the source of anxiety. So we really want to do a thorough assessment of the thyroid if you're dealing with anxiety. So I consider at least 5 tests to be the minimum for testing the thyroid. And here you have what I call the 5 minimum. So TSH, which is a very standard test. FT4, that stands for free T4. Oops, I did that twice. It should have been FT3. So free T4 and free T3, FT4 and FT3. And then thyroglobulin antibodies, and then thyroid peroxidase antibodies. So these are the 5 minimum that I'll use to assess someone's thyroid when I have a concern for their thyroid function, whether it's because they're struggling to lose weight, whether they're experiencing anxiety, whether their digestion is wackadoodle, whatever the case may be. These are the 5 thyroid tests minimum that I will run. So I thought I'd kind of digress for a moment and tell you a little bit about a woman who I work with. Her name is Melissa, and tell you a little bit about her Well Empowered journey. So when Melissa came to see me, her must-have health outcomes included sustained weight loss and relief from debilitating fatigue. She was on anti-anxiety meds and very happily on them. She wasn't interested in coming off them. They were working well for her. And so I had no intention of messing with that, right? I was there to guide her in understanding, what's at the root of her challenges in losing weight, what was at the root cause of her debilitating fatigue. And some of the things we learned from her labs included that there was a disruption of her microbiome, right? Again, fancy word, dysbiosis. She did have impaired detoxification. So that showed up in her liver enzymes. Her liver enzymes were elevated. She had a wide variety of nutrient deficiencies, B12 and folate. I want to say she had an iron deficiency too, definitely omega-3 fatty acids. So quite a few different points of leverage. Inflammation was elevated. So that HSCRP was elevated, and so was her homocysteine. HSCRP was a little more elevated on a relative basis than her homocysteine, but they were both elevated. And she had some hidden food sensitivities. We actually didn't even start with the food sensitivities. We looped those in down the line because she was making progress, but there were still a few things that we weren't just cracking the code on yet. So we pulled those in after a little bit of working together. And, just to share where Melissa is today, a little blurb, right? Energy is like, check the box, awesome. Weight loss, she didn't have that much weight to lose, but she lost it. She lost 15 pounds. I mean, that's amazing, right? And she's, been keeping it off. She's sleeping like a baby, and she has eliminated her anti-anxiety medication, right? So it wasn't her intention to eliminate it. It wasn't a conversation we had about it, but on her own and in conversation with her prescribing physician, she eliminated them because she really just saw she didn't need them anymore. And she is doing great. So just a little blurb about, a journey in this work. So supplements, we are going to start by talking about supplements that may help. What supplements may help. And in a moment here, we're going to talk about supplements that may hurt or worsen anxiety. I just want to acknowledge that I'm going to be running a little bit late today. I was so excited in putting this presentation together that I included more information. I'm now seeing that I can deliver in 30 minutes. So my apologies, but if you need to scooch, you will get a recording of this. So targeted supplementation, which means supplementation based on your lab results. I cannot emphasize that enough. So this could be nutrients. It could be anti-inflammatory in nature, anti-candida, right? Fancy word for yeast. It could be berberine to support your blood sugar or for its antimicrobial properties as it pertains to your microbiome. Could be topical progesterone, right? But whatever it is, we want it to be based on your lab results. Then for sleep support, right? Okay, yes, it's not a supplement, but we know good sleep hygiene works. That's a conversation for another day. I do have some great resources on that. If you're interested, I'd be happy to share with you. If you just email us at we@wellempowered.com and just put in the subject sleep hygiene, we'll send it your way. Another sleep support, CBD oil can be really lovely. I encourage people to do a full spectrum CBD oil. There are quite a number of great options out there. There is a company called Equilibria who I have referred some people to with, they really enjoyed and benefited from their products. So that might be something worth looking at. Another great option for sleep support is magnesium. You want to make sure you choose the right one for your body. In other words, there are some that will lead to increased bowel movements. So if you're someone who's constipated, magnesium citrate is your friend. That's going to help you sleep better and help you poop better. If you're someone who is, goes like clockwork, doesn't need any help on the bowel movement front, you might go with a magnesium glycinate or a magnesium threonate. Magnesium threonate I like because it's very useful in particular for the central nervous system, for our brain, but it is more expensive. So if you're struggling between the two and you're looking for a way to get the benefits of magnesium and you're just kind of like, ugh, would it work? I would say start with magnesium glycinate, see how it works for you. You can always shift to magnesium threonate down the line. Sleep support, the right adrenal support. So key, right? And that goes back to based on your lab results. Melatonin, immediate or sustained release. Again, ideally, we would have your melatonin levels before you supplement, but melatonin is a pretty safe supplement contrary to the dialogue out there. I do with any supplement recommend people using the lowest dose that they need, right? You might only need 0.8 milligrams of melatonin, in which case there's a supplement called herbatonin out there. There are also many supplements out there with 1 milligram, start low and slow and slowly increase. The immediate release is going to help you fall asleep. The sustained release is going to help you stay asleep. L-theanine is an amino acid that really helps calm a nervous system that's, buzzing with anxiety. So that's a lovely option. Typically, again, I start low and have people increase. So you might start with 100 milligrams and increase to 200 milligrams, see if that supports you. Valerian root tea can also be a lovely option for sleep support. Now, different bodies react differently. So it's going to take a little bit of playing around, likely, to figure out what's best for you. And again, sleep hygiene, please, please, please start with that. So much sleep gold can be found in playing a better game as it pertains to sleep hygiene. Other supplements. So kava kava is like an awesome anti-anxiety supplement, but it can raise liver enzymes in some people. So you just don't want to be cavalier about taking it. You always want to take the lowest dose to start with and see how it works for you. And then I do recommend doing a CMP. So checking your liver enzymes, comprehensive metabolic panel will do that. CMP, checking your liver enzymes about 6 weeks after initiating. If they're normal, then you can move it out to call it 3 months. And if they're normal again, you're doing just fine. But, again, being conservative with your dose, but also, checking in on your liver enzymes. And why would I have it here if it can raise liver enzymes? Because it really does make that big of a difference for a lot of people. Number 4, we have L-theanine, which we talked about with regards to sleep support, but you can take this throughout the day too. Adrenal adaptogens, again, chosen specifically for your body, but things such as ashwagandha and rhodiola are ones that tend to be calming more than excitatory adrenal adaptogens. Maca, I put this in here because maca can be helpful in particular for sex hormones. So it can help raise hormones when they're low or bring them down when they're high without adding any sex hormones to your body. Feminescence Pro is the specific supplement I really like from maca. And they have one for women who are currently menstruating. They have one for women who are perimenopausal, dealing with hot flashes. And then they also have a product that is for postmenopausal women. So lots of other great things I could say about that, but the right form of maca can go a long way. And then last on this list, we have probiotics, also known as psychobiotics. So certain strains of probiotics have been shown to alleviate anxiety. These are just 2 specific products that you might consider. Target GBX is made by a company called Claire with a K, and then Omnibiotic Stress Relief is the other one. So these are both possible options. I don't really see a whole lot of harm in giving these probiotics a try. That's why I have them there. But of course, we would love to see a comprehensive microbiome assessment if possible before supplementing. Now we are turning our attention to supplements that may hurt or worsen anxiety. So the first one here is high dose B vitamins, especially for those with a COMT mutation. So COMT is an enzyme. And for people with COMT mutations, which you would know by doing genetic testing, but you can also just kind of notice on yourself, like every time you take B vitamins, first of all, take B vitamins with food, number one. But if you are taking B vitamins with food and you notice, heart palpitations or increased sweating or a little more anxiousness, that might be a sign for you that you're taking more B vitamins than your body needs, right? That maybe you have the COMT mutation and B vitamins aren't the best thing for you. Now, just so you know, this is the minority of people. So most people, so many people who I work with really do benefit from B vitamin supplementation. So I don't want to scare you off. Make sure, get your numbers, see where your B vitamins are. Number two, high dose vitamin C supplementation when not clinically necessary. And so vitamin C really supports our adrenals, which can be a great thing, but it can lead to more robust production of cortisol. And by high dose, I mean 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 more. When not clinically necessary, I mean, okay, did we do an adrenal panel and did we determine that vitamin C would be beneficial to support your adrenals? If we didn't, then you might notice, okay, how do I feel with high dose vitamin C supplementation? Another reason I would call vitamin C supplementation clinically necessary is if you're dealing with an infection. So if you are starting to get sick or you are getting sick, I'm definitely going to be encouraging vitamin C supplementation in high doses. And in that case, high dose, I mean like 10,000, sometimes 16,000. Your tummy will tell you when you've hit your vitamin C limit. So that vitamin C supplementation definitely can be super duper useful. But if you're, just for fun, so to speak, taking high dose vitamin C supplementation and you notice you're a little anxious, maybe try going without it for a week and see if it makes a difference. Number three, prolonged supplementation with allicin. So allicin is the active ingredient in garlic, and allicin can be super duper helpful. I think of two things in particular with allicin. One is elevated cholesterol, and two is a disruption of the microbiome, AKA bad bugs present in your GI tract that we don't want present. Now, you heard me say that first one can be super useful for high cholesterol. You remember I said before that low cholesterol can cause low progesterone. So that's what I mean by this. So prolonged supplementation with allicin without rechecking your cholesterol, it can happen that you drive your cholesterol so low that your body struggles to produce the hormones that you need to feel peace, in particular progesterone. So I have seen that before. Inappropriate use of berberine. And what I mean by that is if we don't see a need for berberine and you use it, you can drive your blood sugar too low, which can cause anxiety. You can also drive your cholesterol too low. And as we just said, that can cause low progesterone and then anxiety. So we just want to make sure if you are taking berberine that your body would benefit from it. And by the way, I love berberine and I use it a lot with people who will benefit from it. And then we check our work. We go back and circle back and we check those numbers again. And then, number 5 here, what supplements may hurt or worsen anxiety, the wrong adrenal supplements for your body's needs. So licorice root is one that comes to mind that's a little more excitatory. If that's not what your body needs, then you might be experiencing anxiety. The last two that we have here, number 6, copper supplementation that leads to elevated copper levels. That can certainly play a role. I don't often find the need for copper supplementation. If I'm supplementing with zinc for someone, because they do need zinc replenishment, if I'm using a high dose or if I'm using it over a long period of time, I might use a supplement with a little bit of copper because high dose zinc can deplete our copper because they compete for absorption. So to balance that out, I might use a supplement that has zinc with a little bit of copper. But I haven't really yet found, I can think of one person who who we did need to use a little copper supplementation for her. And then lastly, we see thyroid support used unnecessarily, right? So that could be a glandular, that could be something that's supporting your ability to convert your thyroid hormones, your T4 to T3, your active thyroid hormone, but inappropriate or unnecessary thyroid support definitely can cause anxiety, and a lot worse than that, heart palpitations, arrhythmia. So please don't be willy-nilly with supplementation as it pertains to your thyroid. Okay, so moving on, 3 foundational habits for relieving anxiety and promoting calm. Number 1, eat for blood sugar stability. That's a whole other conversation, but that is the number 1 nutritional guidance I'd offer you pertaining to reducing anxiety and promoting calm. Eating for blood sugar stability. A great way to do that would be, even just to start your journey in stabilizing your blood sugar, first of all, eat your breakfast. Actually eat breakfast, don't intermittent fast. If you have anxiety, eat within an hour of waking and have it be protein, fat centric and low on the carb front. Doesn't mean absolutely no carbs, but low on the carb front. So that's one little gem I'll offer on the blood sugar stability front. Number 2, crack your sleeping code. We talked a little bit more about that, but many gems to be had there. And then number 3, engage in a question with yourself called, what cadence of life serves me now? Right? There are different times in life where we are going to be going at a really fast pace. And sometimes that can just become habitual, and we can experience the need of, I need to be a yes to everything, or FOMO that we just can't seem to shake. But if you start to look at the cadence of your life and you see you're really, really spread thin, my encouragement would be to start to look at what cadence of life serves you now and begin to take a step, 1 foot in front of the other, to start to make your way to the cadence that serves you at this moment in time. So I'm going to invite you to make a note on what promise you are willing to make to yourself today. Here are 3 foundational habits, but maybe in our time together today, you came up with something else. So I'm just going to be silent for a moment while you take a note of 1 promise you're willing to make to yourself today. Okay. And, from here, living well empowered, what does it mean? To me, it means you have the information, the strategies, and you're living with sustained inspiration. You're connected to your why. So you have the what, the how, and you're really connected to your why. Why is your health so important to you? So you have all that, and that allows you to make changes and shifts in your life that allow you to produce the health outcomes that matter most to you and sustain them. So if you're interested in exploring working together, I invite you to schedule your complimentary 30-minute consultation by either texting 312-967-8000 or by emailing we@wellempowered.com. And in that conversation, we'll talk about what it would look like to work together. And at that point, if it does seem like the appropriate next step, we will engage in your health audit. This is 2 90-minute sessions conducted remotely, including your discovery, that first 90-minute conversation, labs completed between conversations, and then your solution. And then at that point, we talk about what it looks like to move from solution to resolution. In other words, what's it look like to work together beyond those 2 appointments to produce the outcomes you care about the most, and also get measurable assessments of your progress along that journey, looking at your new numbers in your labs, as well as how you're feeling and the relief you're experiencing. And then, of course, you can find me on social media, on Instagram and Twitter at Well Empowered, via Facebook at You Well Empowered, and on LinkedIn under my name. So to me, when your health is handled, you bring fully to this world, but only you can. And that is a gift not to be missed. So thank you each and all for being here today for this mini Monday. And I look forward to seeing you again in a couple of weeks. Have a great day. I'll stay on for a moment here. And if you have any questions, feel free to pop them in the chat.